Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, it's Karl Bryan coming at you for another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I'm doing my interview series, and I have got somebody on the line who I think you're going to enjoy at a very high level. He's been a client for a long time, but also become quite a good friend. Hung out in Cancun in the past, and we'll be hanging out in Cancun in the future. So without further ado, I want to introduce none other than Don Van Poel. Don, how are you doing?
Doing great, Karl. How are you doing?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. Hey, you've got a pretty impressive background. So if you don't mind, I'm going to get straight into it. I want to talk. We've got, again, thousands of coaches will ultimately end up listening to this. And let's assume that, they're in the category of they're trying to get their coaching / consulting up and running. They're challenged with where they're at. And as I always say, your ideal client is you 5 years ago, second only to your client from 10 years ago. What I'd like to do is I want to ask you a series of questions, and then I want you to answer it in such a way that it's almost like you're talking to yourself 5 years ago when you're trying to work out this, this whole coaching / consulting framework. What do you think? Does that sound like a fair undertaking?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, Karl.
Beauty. Okay, buddy. So tell me, so why did you become a coach? Give us the 101.
Yeah, just my story a little bit. So, my why is really related to when I was a teenager. So my father was running a small business. You think, mid-1980s, Central Florida. And as a 16-year-old, I think everything's going fine, everything's going well. And then what I didn't know was that he wasn't really particularly good at running the business, and there were revenue issues and cash issues and all kind of other issues. And so, one day, I think I was a junior in high school, he comes home and says, I'm shutting down the business. I'm getting a corporate job. He never had a corporate job in his life. Was his only option. And so, at that point, the family kind of split apart. I decided I'm going to finish high school and stay in Florida. My brother left with them. And then, little did I know, I'd wake up one day and 2 weeks later, I wouldn't live with my family ever again. So, my why, this is an easy business, whether it's, generating leads or closing or delivering and fulfilling. Sometimes it feels awful lonely. My why is if I can save one 16-year-old girl or boy that episode, it's well worth it. So, that's why I do it. I had a great corporate career, but this is way more fulfilling than it ever was.
Nice. I love it. As you know, my story, my big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old over a business failing. So I know a little thing or two about having that PTSD-like experience way back when. Hey, one thing, when closing, right, it's really important that you connect with clients. I want to hear, you've explained that to me before, but how do you do this? How do you connect at a higher level with folks when you're closing than maybe some of the other coaches, or maybe that you did 5 to 10 years ago?
Yeah, 5 or 10 years ago, or specifically 5 or 6 years ago, I was not really good at that. And that's a journey I actually went on. So, to think about that, so I did a 360 as a coach back 5 or 6 years ago. And one of the areas that I really was not very good at was nurturing clients, kind of acknowledging them and doing the soft things on top of all the the great kind of hard skill things that we teach. And so I think sometimes this is a trap for coaches because we're very kind of methodical. We got the math, we understand the business, we know how to do revenue, we know how to control costs. But there's a whole, especially in the small business side, there's a very big emotional component to what people are doing. And you just told your story, which I always think about, I think about a lot when I'm, out working, and I'm thinking there's another Carl's brother out there that I need to work with so that doesn't happen. So I think it's more, whether it's two ways, Carl. One is, when you're working with a client to bring them on board, and I believe selling is serving. So you're serving the client by bringing them on board to work with you. Not everybody, but a lot of clients you have to connect with on an emotional basis for them to trust you, to work with you. And so you have the initial, lead to close. And so at some point, and it has to be authentic and genuine. This cannot, otherwise they'll completely turn you off. But it's within your process, asking them about their family. How many kids do they have? How old are they? What do they enjoy? Are you married? And a really important question is, what would it mean if you could spend more time with your family? Because most of these people, like us, we get overwhelmed as well, really have a hard time on the 80-20 rule. So we can really help them figure out the 80-20 piece of their business and spend more time with their family. And it also applies to after even you're working with a client. So I have some large clients I also work with. Large or small, it doesn't matter. Consistently connecting with them and making sure that they know you care about them as a person and not just as a client. And that will typically keep you around for longer because there's just a ton of trust there. So I know as coaches, especially business coaches, we think in dollars and cents, and that is really, really important. Whether you call it a coach or a consultant, I loved your explanation. But you've got to connect with people, at an emotional, human level. First of all, to help them because they're not going to trust your advice. And second of all, to stay around for a client for more than 3 or 4 months.
I hear you. I might just, that was on the pre-show where I explained that. We were just talking to one of our coaches on the pre-show. And so so there's coaching and then there's consulting, right? So coaching is that my client already knows what they need to know. I just need to draw it out of them, right? So that what the, International Coaching Federation would basically say almost exactly that, if not verbatim. But then I'm challenged with it because there's another saying, if you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker, right? So if you draw out of somebody like, oh my gosh, I know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to lower my prices. And then it's like, go get them, tiger. And all of a sudden they rush out and they immediately lower their prices and tell everybody and contact all their clients. And they're a real go-getter. You might find that, whoopsie, that was a really, really bad idea. Or, again, it's more products and more services. They think it's a great idea to add this, add that, add this, add that. And then it's like, well, hang on a second. You've got 3 staff members. They were already all maxed. Then you went and added X, Y, and Z. And your biggest challenge was customer support before we got started. Again, whoopsie. So this is where consulting is where we're guiding them and we're providing direction and we're helping assist with the ABC, the 1, 2, 3, and the framework they should be using. And then coaching is drawing it out of them. So what I believe and what we have experienced, what we do at focus.com, as you know, Don, but some of our coaches well and truly understand that. Some of them are newer and just learning it. But really what we try to encourage and what we teach and what we provide with our software is a little bit of a hybrid of the two, if you will. Don, can you just speak to that? Is that what I said on the pre-show? And is that what you said that you liked? And anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do have, yes. First of all, that's exactly what you said. And it actually, I believe what you said for a while, but you really helped me clarify on the pregame show. And I would just say, what I do with clients as soon as we start to work together is I say, I'm going to pivot between 3 different things based on the situation. And sometimes I'll ask them permission to pivot. I'm going to say, sometimes I'm just going to coach you. And sometimes, coaching is drawing out what's in them, as a person or as a business owner and just kind of listening to them. And then I'll pivot and say, look, now we're going to do some consulting and let's think about what you said or what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to consult with you now. And I'm going to be a little more diagnostic. And then say, I'm going to pivot to being a trusted advisor. And just if you ask me a question, I'm going to skip the coaching and the consulting. And I'm going to just tell you what I would do. But I find I have to make it clear with them, look, right now I'm coaching, I'm pivoting to consulting, and I might pivot to trusted advisor. We're going to do all 3 just so you know there's a difference in the 3.
Okay, so I say trust the system. What's your response to that?
Yeah, so I'm a former military officer, so trust the system really resonates with me. And then, in the context of the military, we had systems upon systems as you either go to war or you're training. And within the confine of that system, you're very creative, but you had to follow the system because things were very complex, and you had to take the train and kind of model it and make sure you knew what everybody was doing. You could communicate. And so when I say trust the system, and there's a tension between trusting a system and creativity. And I would say you have to. Everyone's signed on with Focus.com. You're gonna have a lot of people calling you with different trinkets and different ways of doing things, and it'll all kind of sound good. But to be successful, I believe you've got to pick a system, which you've all done. What I mean by trust the system is you got to follow the process and not try to get creative around how the process has been designed. Get creative within the system. But the biggest kind of failing that I've seen when folks take a system that's been well thought out, and this one is well thought out. It's been designed over many years, many trials with thousands of coaches. Trust that it's going to work and that the Focus.com team has your back, like we would back in the military, and work the system. Now, some people will say, well, doesn't that stifle creativity? And I would say, no, actually a system creates productivity. You think about the Toyo production system or the U.S. military or the system. It makes some of the kind of the basics done for you. So when you get into the higher level thinking, you don't have to think about the foundation and framework. You're thinking within the framework. So I would say, especially the folks that are new within the system, get really good at whatever it is that fits your style. Like if you really want to be a good networker and get leads that way, trust the system and be really, really good at networking or be really, really good at live events.
Yeah, nice. How long have you been a client?
6 years. 6 years
Beautiful.
This October. Right now.
And what would you? No, there we go. Boom.
Yeah,
Birthday.
right now,
yeah. And so talk to me about the software. Like how is it kind of elevated your game, or how do you use it to its highest advantage? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, there's a lot actually. This is in no certain order. I would say, number one, if I think about the academy that the team gets to work with their clients, digest what's in there. If you take, I hope everyone knows what I'm talking about. Some people are really new, but if you take the first class to the 20th class in the academy and you learn that in depth, you're going to be in the 98th or 99th percentile of, I would call it direct response or small business marketing. And I don't think some of you really realize that. Some of you are coming from different backgrounds. And if you learn the first 20 lessons just by themselves, you will be in the 98th or 90th percentile, and you can go and really, really help clients. I always say people pay for coaching to either get paid, get laid, or lose weight. And we're here to get paid or help people get paid. And so how do they do that? Sales and marketing. So, that would be number one. I would say the group coaching software. So if you think about the old days, Carl, where you had to create your own content, you had to put it in certain order, you had to keep everything on a spreadsheet, I could go on and on. But the group coaching software creates all of that for you. It has the bells and whistles are immense. It has several different courses you can take them through. It's all outlined for you. The pre-work is all done for you. The PowerPoints are all done for you. And then you just kind of work through the system. Once you get creative inside that system, as you hear different people come on and have different issues, within that, you can start to use your experience to actually, help them even more because you're not thinking about all of those things. Those things just take time that we don't have.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple more. One is, JS12. So the Jumpstart 12, I actually use that on my business once a year. I'll go back and run through that and give myself, I'll just ask myself the questions and just say, where do I think I really am, in that continuum? And then the newest piece, which is with flash coaching. So, and I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with that, but it really is a great way to either, first of all, it can be a great downsell for people that can't afford full coaching. You can bring them in at a reasonable price and they can learn. And as they build their business, they'll come back to you for the bigger coaching, dollars. I just had someone actually write a $3,000 check for 3 years worth. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, the software is just amazing. And it just accentuates this, the quote system that, we have.
Nice. High five. Thanks for the props there, Dylan. Appreciate it, buddy. Hey, talk to me about consistent coaching reps and kind of what you feel are, really important about that. Like, talk to me about consistent coaching reps.
Yeah, I'd break that down in a few ways. One is when I was just starting coaching, the best advice I got was, and I know this is hard to hear because you got to feed your family, so I get it. It's more important to coach right now than it is to make a lot of money. And some people can just go like roll in, Carl, and just do both all at the same time, and God bless them. I wasn't one of those people initially. And so it's really important to actually coach, consult, whatever you want to call it. And it applies to both, by the way. Because I can have all the systems and I got tons of systems and frameworks from here and from GE and everywhere else. Until you actually apply it and see how it works, and sometimes how it maybe got to alter it to fit your style, the person's style, all that stuff starts to build on itself. So, and you just get better and better. So, when I relaunched actually a couple of years ago. And we'll get into why I had to relaunch here, I think. But all I did when I relaunched is I said, you know what? I just need a coach. I picked up the phone. I signed 7 clients in 2 days at $100 a month for a couple of sessions a month. Well, what happened was, right, I showed my worth over a couple of months, and I started raising my prices, like, $400, $500, $1,000. But it was just really important to get in, just coach. So you got to make that your decision, like how you want to do it. But the second thing it does for you, Carl, is it gives you confidence, because going back to trust the system, you can't trust something till you do it. And so when you do it and you see, wow, that actually is impacting that person and that works, that just builds the confidence to know, yep, I can trust the system. These tools work. What I'm doing works. And it just accelerates your growth. And you don't have to charge $50, $100 for very long. It's just initially if you're brand new, do however you want. I'm just giving you my story. But you gotta get reps. It's like your boy Tom Brady, right? He doesn't do it anymore. I don't think he's on commercials now. But you know what? He had to get rep after rep after rep. And then, as you say, being a professional is getting, paid to practice. So at some point, yep, you're going to get paid to practice. And you're going to, I guess the last thing is I love this question is, there's times I take business where I'm like, how good am I at that really? And now if I think I'm way out of my league, I'll say no. But when I 9 times out of 100, I'll say yes. And then I'll jump on our Facebook page. I'll call my mentor. I'll call a coach. I'll go do, Google and study it for a couple, 3 days. And actually I go and I apply it. I learn something new.
Yep.
And so getting reps is also like getting out your comfort zone and learning something totally new. And maybe even having a new product or a new stream of rep, however you want to call it. But the bottom line is you're not going to learn to be quarterback for the New England Patriots by watching TV.
Nice. I love it. Funny one, Don. Remember this on Facebook when you tagged me and you go, I can't remember what it was, but it was like, I think you took a 7-hour trip with your kids in the car and you made them listen to my podcast. You referred to it as child abuse. Oh my God.
I got a little behind on the podcast and I was driving down to South Carolina. So I threw it on, I threw on your podcast for 7 or 8 hours. There was a bit of child abuse, but they're okay now. They got some therapy.
They've come through. They're going to be okay. Actually, and you mentioned, but again, you take on, just for everybody listening too. I mean, you've got some high. Like, what's an example of a higher end coaching / consulting fee that you would charge some of your bigger clients?
Yeah, so there's some consulting / coaching that I do, and I specifically I'm doing this week. That'll be, charge upwards of $15,000-$16,000 a week. They get a lot of my time. It doesn't realize the fact I've got other people to coach, right? But that's the upper level. So
okay, I just wanted to make sure you were mentioning doing some. So that's where you started with reps like Tom Brady throwing the ball for free, and now you've got those kinds of thousands and thousands of dollars coming in per week from a specific client. It's kind of, so there's, if they keep going, they can get there too, is what we're trying to say.
I started with I think the personal trainer. My first client working with you guys was a personal trainer making about, I think his revenue was $60,000 or $70,000.
Yeah.
And I just proposed, and cross your finger, I should close on this with $1 billion client, $1 billion revenue, and it's 6 weeks of worth, and it's about $120,000.
Ooh, dang! There we go. Remember us little people, Don.
Be a good start to the year, Carl.
Nice. All right. Hey, so a well-developed JV is like worth its weight in gold, right? How do you, you've been successful with that. How do you talk to me about framing up and successfully forming a joint venture the other coaches could learn from?
Yeah. I think, so just Don's view, I'd put it in the category of, if that's going to be one of your lead generation strategies, pair it with something that works immediately, like, networking or something like that. JVs take a little bit longer. And I would say it's kind of I'm not going to, let's do your example for a second. Approach them as kind of Santa Claus. So I approached the JV partner as, look, I'm going to bring clients. I'm going to bring clients to you. And sometimes you can ask them to bring clients back, but look, I'm looking for the best, fill in the blank, that's looking to help people with, say, this isn't my JV, but if it's accounting, I have accountant, I have all of these clients and their books aren't being done, and I need to bring them into this relationship so I can have, an accounting partner that can take care of my clients and can get their books right, and, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I approach it that way. So my best JV client I brought into, before we connected and had the agreement, I'm going to guess it was $200,000 or $300,000 of business I brought them, over time. And so now they're reciprocating all of that work. They're bringing me, hundreds of dollars of business back the other way over time. So I know you have a slightly different approach, Carl, but I would say come to them as, I need someone to bring my clients to, and I'm looking for a great accountant as I upgrade my clients, and approach it that way. And then as you bring them clients, they will start to trust you and open up there, because as you know, an accountant's going to be the last person to open their books to somebody until they completely trust them. So nice. It just takes time, Carl. In my experience, it takes time. So if that's I would say, if you're a brand new coach today listening to this, figure out your strategy for developing one or two JV partners, and just get started now while you're doing some of the other things.
Yeah. Okay. So again, because the sales cycle of a JV could be 3 to 6 months, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So then don't just do that. Otherwise you'd be, go networking and throw, the onesies, twosies, and then you're developing joint ventures in the background that will come to fruition, and they might come quickly and they might take a little while, but get them going and accept that it's not an immediate thing. Right. And I think you said this earlier, you come in as Santa Claus rather than the Grinch, right? You're bearing gifts, and that's the frame. Whereas everybody else, what do? They go to the accountant and say, oh my gosh, send me clients. And guess what? I'll give you a percentage of everything they spend with me. Oh, and by the way, when they stop spending money with me, I'll stop sending you the money. Right. And it's like, my 10-year-old daughter could come up with something more clever than that. Right. Like, we got to come in there as Santa Claus. What are they looking for? And fulfill, provide them value. And then you come second. And most aren't. Yeah. That's the frame. Right. There we go.
Yeah. And I did have an early, years ago, I had one of my first JV partners that I signed was a financial planner. And she would, and I don't know if people are doing this yet, how new they are, but she would co-sponsor the live events that I had, and actually pay for the live events. She would foot the bill for everything and bring her clients in, and I would bring clients in, and that worked really well. And as I learned, I just got bigger JVs.
Nice. There we go. And you eat your own dog food. I mean, you literally run your business through the Jumpstart 12 once a year. don't you?
Once
That's
yeah,
and for those, maybe if I could, Don, before you go, those listening, profit acceleration software, our software, right? We've got something called the Jumpstart 12 if you're not currently using it. So, Don, you run your business through the Jumpstart 12 every year, don't you?
I do. Every December, January, I run it back through and just give myself realistic answers. And then I go through and I create the little Gantt chart thing that we have, the Gantt chart tool. And I go back through and when I'm working on my business, I'm doing those things. So I'm going to improve my offer or think about a better downseller, upseller, cross sell, or work on my drip campaign or whatever. So it just depends on what I need to work on. But it keeps, the important thing about that is that we're all pulled in 1,000 directions, right? We're generating leads and we're closing and we're fulfilling, and hopefully you have an accountant, but we're doing kind of some back end stuff, and then you got to study and you got to read and you got to get better and you got to sharpen the saw. And how do you stay focused on the 20% that's going to drive 80% of your business, like we tell everybody else?
Yeah. That's it. The thing. We had an internal call today, and I was told the guys, I go, look here, like the first principles. It just comes back to first principles, right? The first principles of football, the rule book, right? The first principles of hockey, the rule book. First principles of tennis, the rule book. And if you didn't have the rule book, you couldn't have the tournament because you'd have a mass exodus halfway through when somebody did something that toes the line, and somebody's got to make a decision, and it's like whatever decision you make, you know what I mean? The other team and the other player in the other country is going to go nuts, right? So at the end of the day, so what are the rules of business? And I was explaining to them, in coaching, we got 2 rules. 1, get clients. 2, keep clients. That's it, right? So everything we look at our P&L, and we're looking at whatever we're doing, expense wise. It's like, does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? We take on a new staff member. Does he help us get clients? Does he help us keep clients? And then, by the way, you define how do we keep clients? We help people build successful coaching practices. And that's defined as putting money in their bank account, right? So again, it's get client. Anyway, so just along those lines, right? Like just keep it nice and tight, nice and simple. And when you go to first principles, life becomes easy, right? No doubt you'd agree with that.
I totally agree with that. And I would say also get comfortable outsourcing. So what do I mean by that? I got a great bookkeeper. I don't do any of that. I've got a terrific accountant to make sure I keep as much money as I possibly can. And I have a lawyer to make sure that the legal documents are done appropriately so I don't get into any issues. And I don't do any of that on my own. Yeah, I would never keep my own books ever.
Yeah. Smart. For those listening, by the way, again, say you save yourself X on a good accountant and you cost yourself lots on the other side. What would you say the number one, like over the last number of years, I'm going to say last 3 years, what's the number one thing that you've done that you'd say has amplified your coaching? Because you've gone from strength to strength to strength over the last number of years. I've watched it, impressed by it, and watched it. What would you say over the last 3 years has been a needle mover for you?
Yeah, this might be a bit of a controversial statement, but so this is my story, so I don't want anyone to be offended by this, but I don't believe alcohol in top performance mix. And so,
I didn't hear that. You don't believe what? Alcohol what?
And peak performance mix.
Nice.
I don't believe those mix together very well. And now, okay, so this doesn't apply to, I love drinking red wine at dinner and I like pairing those things, and that's a hobby. I'm talking about, I would say I probably drank too much at some point, but maybe it's a coincidence, Carl, but when I stopped cold turkey on my own, and it was very difficult for about 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
But when I stopped cold turkey, everything about my life coincidentally got better. How well my business was doing, how well I was learning about how to run my own entrepreneurial venture, my relationships, my decisions. You call it a coincidence, but all of those things for my life changed dramatically. And once again, I'm not preaching to anybody. I'm not talking about people that have a hobby. I'm probably the person that I'm speaking to hears me right now. Would be my guess. It just changed my life. And so I just look before and after, and I look for how well I generate leads, or I close sales, or I interact with people, or I listen to people, or I'm present, or anything about how I can interact with people now is just a million times better. And it's like the compounding effect.
Yeah.
One day someone asked me, well, now that you don't drink, what do you do with your time? I'm like, I read, I study. I don't know. What else am I going to do? So, that stuff just kind of compounds on itself. So I would say that would be the number one thing that's really changed my life.
Wow. And you met a Canadian, eh?
I did. Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
So there you go. That's all.
Oh,
Stop right there.
You're not careful. I might make you sing the national anthem, bud.
I shouldn't know about. I'm a permanent resident now. So.
Well, but just want to make sure everybody listening, though, like at the end of the day, is it safe to say over the last 3 years, your coaching / consulting business has gone to incredibly new heights? Yes.
I wouldn't even have dreamed it before. I'm like, really? Yeah.
Nice. And the number one thing when you like the inflection point for you as you look back over the last X amount of, during this amplified period, you go, I stopped drinking here, cold turkey, hard for 5 months, but that's the inflection point. Is that right? I just want to make sure everybody heard that.
Very simple. Yes, absolutely. There's no question in my mind. Or it was just amazing coincidence.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say not, but there we go. I love it. So, okay, well, speaking of needle movers, like cash is oxygen, right? So you've said, again, if I misquote you here, I apologize, but help me out. But you think like a banker is what I believe it is, right? Tell me what you mean by thinking like a banker.
Yeah, so thinking like a banker. So, as we grow our businesses, when I say cash is oxygen, I think it's something here from Seth Godin where he's like, however you want to run your business or whatever you're selling or however you're doing it, when you run out of cash, game over. Like you're done. Like there's nothing else you can do, right? That's it. So how do we invest and preserve cash the right way? Well, think like a banker. So think of it this way. Whatever your source of cash is to run your business, it could be, severance. It could be your life savings. It could be friends and family. I've got an insurance policy I can borrow from as an example, or it could be a revolver from a bank, whatever it is. Before you, and so Karl talks about, I think you talk about feedback loops, which I totally agree with. Like sometimes you're going to invest money in marketing, it's not going to work, but you get some feedback from it. So I don't disagree with that part. What I would say though is run your numbers. If you're going to run a Facebook campaign, do the analysis of how many clients do I think I'm really going to get? What's the lifetime value of that customer? And is it really a smart investment, or could I invest my money a different way? Yep. And sometimes you'll say yes, and you'll invest it and it won't work, right? Bankers make bad decisions. Things don't work the way you wanted to. But before you invest in whatever marketing you're going to do, pretend you're the banker making the loan to yourself. Run the numbers, get comfortable with it, really do your homework. And then if it makes sense to you as the banker, make the investment. And I'm sure all of you in your BNI or your Chamber of Commerce are bumping into bankers everywhere. Just sit down with one of them and ask them, how do you think through a loan when you do? What are the things you're looking for? And just apply it to yourself, because truly, Karl, I've had to close one business where I didn't think that way. This was pre what we were talking about before, by the way. And I'm still writing that off of my taxes, so at least I get some benefit. But I wasn't thinking like a banker. Right? I was just investing money, and it didn't work.
Yeah. What I've got, actually, I said this last week, but I've got on my. Did I say it last week? But anyway, look. So if you walk into my office right now, I've got on my whiteboard. Stop. Hang on. Let me think of it. Like, stop executing on ideas and start executing on plans. It's worded a little differently than that, but no doubt you get everybody's got an idea. You got to take the idea, turn it into a plan. And by the way, the plan's probably not that useful, but you know what is useful is the planning of the plan. Right? So Tyson will tell you everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the nose. And it's the training that will allow you to get punched in the nose and stand in there and, not get your butt kicked. Do you know what I mean? So it's in the planning. The plan might go out the window, but the planning, if done properly, is what will save you and what you can you can refer back to, right? So I like that. So there you go. Yeah, thinking like a banker. Hey, so tell me this. Thousands of business coaches are going to listen to this. So we're speaking to you 5 years ago, right? What's the one thing? What's the one? Let's call it a needle mover thing you'd wish you'd known way back then when you got cranking and you were looking for clients and wondering, frankly, what the lifestyle you're currently living, in and out of Canada and totally virtual, etc. Like, killing it and enjoying it. By the way, as we've spoken about.
Yeah.
What's that's who you're speaking to? Tell me, what's the one thing? What's the needle mover you'd say to him?
Yeah, not only in and out of Canada, Carl, but I'm going to spend the summer. I'm going to spend the winter in Florida. I'm leaving in about 6 weeks. Not in Canada.
Tough life, though.
That's a hard one, but I think because you learn so much in 6 or 7 years of ups and downs. But I would say if I could teleport myself back and whisper in the ear of that person, I would say, when you decided on a system or process of way you're going to go to market, close transactions, fulfill, however you want to put it, you got to go all in on that and trust it to work. Because what'll happen if you don't is someone will call you with a different system and you'll get emails because people will find you and, you'll get bored with it because I want to learn this. You got to trust it and you got to go with it and you got to learn it and you got to do it. And I want to add something to that though, because I think it's really important. I don't want this whole consulting coaching thing you talked about is really important. I think where I probably went wrong the first time was I said, I am just a coach and I'm not a consultant. Well, guess what? You're going to take a lot of the market out because they also need consulting, not just, coaching. So I would say if you're new or you're struggling, like the system here is amazing. And so it's the one you took the bet on, it's the horse you're on. Learn it in depth and trust it. Trust Karl and the team. They are always innovating and creating new things. We've come light years in the last 6 or 7 years, Karl. It doesn't even look like it did 6 or 7 years ago. That's actually a short amount of time. And so really, really, really learn it. And I'm going to bolt onto that. Don't get hung up on coaching consulting. You got to help the client. And sometimes they need a coach. They absolutely need a coach. A lot of times they need a consultant. Occasionally they need a trusted advisor. But don't get so hung up on like this box of coaching, because that's where a lot of coaches don't make any money because they just get stuck there.
Yeah. That's it. So just coach / consult / mentor to outcome. Does that sum it up?
That's right. That's what you're trying to get them to. That the goal is to get them to a revenue number or a profitability number. How do I get them there? I like what you say, like do whatever it takes. If I got to go on site and spend some time in their books, I'm going to drive over and look at them. If I got to show them how to sort a Excel spreadsheet, to look at the 20% of their clients that are doing 80% of the volume and spend 10 minutes doing that, hey, give me your spreadsheet. Here's how you do it. Look, they're the 5 clients doing everything for you.
Nice. So look, don't do your best. You do what it takes, right? There's 2 minutes to go in the game and you're down by 1.
Yeah.
You gotta, whatever, you know what I mean? You're not like, oh, but I'm a left winger, so I can't go over here. It's not the way it works, right? You do what it takes. You fill the gap, you fill the hole, right? Be
Jalen Hurts. You could throw the ball, you could run the ball, or you could do whatever. It's just whatever it takes. If you got to run 15 yards, do it. If you got to stay in the pocket and throw 20 yards, do that. I'm sorry if there's no football fans on here, but
there we go. Coming from a Chicago Bears fan right there.
Yeah.
All right. Don, we appreciate you, bud. You've been around a long time and you've been amazing, man. So you were amazing here today. You've been amazing for 6 years, man. So thank you so much for being with us today, and thanks for your magic. Keep doing what you do.
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity, Karl. I appreciate the last 6-7 years.
You bet, bud. God bless, man. Take care.
Right on. God bless you.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.